Hello, everyone, and happy Comfest. I hope you're doing well. I am going to be speaking with you today about trauma responsive care so that we can all help to build a more resilient community. So my name is Amy Harcar, and I'm the Family Care Manager at ETSS. I received my Trauma Responsive Care certification, I want to say back in 2019. I have to stop and remember. It's been a little while. Columbus Care Coalition. The Care Coalition is a partnership with over 125 agencies led by Columbus Public Health. The mission is to support, educate, and engage community organizations who serve Columbus, including mental health providers, community organizations, city government, and community activists. The vision is to make Columbus a more trauma-informed community. In 2015, there was a homicide outreach and response when a 7-year-old and parents were shot to death by a neighbor in Ohio. So as we're discussing this presentation, please be mindful that things may come up for you. Please make sure that you are always taking care of yourself. But this is the group that first went out and started meeting with our community. What they found is that some individuals had just moved to the community from California thinking that they were getting a better life for their family, and then this situation happened. So becoming trauma informed, really what we want more than anything is for you to start thinking about asking what has happened to this person instead of what is wrong with this person. Individual and community trauma. Individual trauma symptoms, PTSD that manifests in about 30 days, flashbacks, hypervigilance, anger and irritation, nightmares, inability to focus or concentrate, numbing, lack of hope, inability to relate to others. Community trauma, you're going to see things like the inability to feel safe, increased fear and a feeling that the world is unsafe and that harm could come at any time. Isolation, lack of collective efficacy. I knew I was going to mess up that word. Numbness to violence. Survivors of community violence and trauma feel an extreme sense of betrayal and distrust towards other people. Community violence can permanently destroy entire neighborhoods and communities. This quote from Resma Manikim, trauma decontextualized in a person looks like personality. Trauma decontextualized in a family looks like family traits. Trauma in a people looks like culture. The legacy of trauma, awareness that where we are working with communities who have generational trauma, historical, and racial trauma. Here are some definitions of cultural humility versus cultural competence, racism, racial trauma, what it means to be a white ally, white privilege, white supremacy, white gaze. We are going to talk about the hand brain next. The hand brain model. So if you can do this at home, you can do this. I love this because you can do this with kids, you can do this with adults so that they start to understand how their brain processes. So you take your hand, you can do this along with us while you're participating in the presentation. So the hand model, as you see here, the prefrontal cortex is going to be the tip of your fingers. Cerebral cortex. The limbic system is going to be represented by your thumb, the brain stem down here at the base of your hand, and the spinal cord here. So the lower brain stem is where we have our breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, bladder and bowel control, arousal. It lets information into the brain. Communicates through body sensation. Here, you're going to see represented with your thumb is the fear center. This is what's going to determine if you're safe or unsafe. It sets off our survival response: flock, flee, fight, freeze, or faint. No conscious control over this activation. It needs to felt safety, attachment, and regulation. Communicates through sensations and pictures. Here, again, if you have your fingers folded over, is going to represent your cerebral cortex. This is the thinking, planning, creative parts, problem-solving part of your brain. The ability to communicate through language, assist with empathy and compassion. It is not fully formed until we are well into our 30s. Communicates through pictures and words. So if we're doing this, this is something that I work with, and I use this even in my home. If I'm feeling stressed, if I see something with my child, that we can flip our lids and come offline. So when we experience big emotions or stressful situations, we can flip our lids. Our fear center takes control, helping us to survive. Our thinking brain goes offline. We don't have conscious control over this activation. Flipping our lids, sensory overload, may experience an emotional roller coaster, feel out of control, not aware of your actions, you don't know what's happened, and it can get repeatedly activated. In order for our thinking brains to be online, we need to have felt safety. We're comfortable, relaxed, connected. Safe connection, someone we can build and maintain trust with before we can reason. So again, that is going to be the fingers here that are covering the thumb, covering the limbic system. So excusing versus understanding. Under no circumstance does trauma-informed care suggest that poor behavior and choices be ignored or excused due to a person's history of trauma. Excusing behavior is far different than understanding it. If we can understand the behavior, then we can work at the mechanisms that is driving it and offer healing. So becoming trauma responsive. What has happened to this person? And then we're going to ask, what did this person do to survive? The top 5 resiliency factors: agency, self-esteem, external supports, positive affiliation, and positive safe adults. So what is agency? Voice and choice. When do you feel in control? What decisions can I make for myself? How do you define power and control? Is it power over or power with? To have power to make things happen. How do you create power with others so together you have the power to contribute to the greater good? Self-esteem, a sense of self, personal preferences, likes and dislikes, sense of self-worth. When do you feel loved and valued? Self-efficacy. How do you affect change? How do I make things happen? How do I use and how do I want to use my power of influence? External support systems can be a person, a pet, fantasy, or spiritual and other belief systems. What is the system of meaning that I have? How do I make sense of the world? Number 2 is affiliation. Affiliation with a cohesive, supportive group that works together towards a positive goal. What groups do I belong to? This can be family, social groups, school, a faith organization, different types of activities or sports, creative expression, community organizations, circles of connection. How am I connected to my environment? Are they safe, healthy individuals? One, safe, healthy relationships. Safe, healthy relationships are the most important factor in healthy development for individuals and communities who have experienced trauma. People in communities who have experienced trauma need experiences with healthy people outside of their abusive environments, especially people in positions of authority. You make a difference. Relationships are the agent of change, and the most powerful therapy is human love and connection. People, not programs, change people. That's Dr. Bruce Perry. So let's talk about some communication tools. First, safety triangle. I love this one, and I always use the example of my husband, who sometimes will say things and it comes out and he has a much more serious facial expression than he realizes. So I will jokingly, tell him to fix his face so that what he says matches his expression. If I'm going to feel safe with you, I need to know that you have a safe face. You don't look angry. Safe posture. You sit next to somebody, your eye level or even below their eye level. So think of a child. If a teacher comes up to a child and stands over them, that's power over. If they sit next to them or kneel next to them so that the child lowers their gaze, that's going to be a much safer posture. I personally don't like it when somebody comes up really close to me and stands over me. It makes me cringe. That's just something really simple that we can make sure that we do. And a safe voice. Don't sound angry. People are not going to want to communicate with you. Use a soft, calmer tone. What about a community safety triangle? At the top is non-judgmental, authenticity, transparency. Safe spaces are open for curiosity. What's underneath the surface? So this image here on the circle is what we would refer to as our anger onion. In the brain, irritation equals threat. When you see anger, aggression, risk-taking, self-injurious behavior, think sadness, and then use it as a bridge to identify the fear. So you see the anger on the outside. Below it is usually sadness and discomfort. And really even below that is fear, worry, or shame. The lose-lose power struggle, the lose-lose of power struggles. If you win the power struggle, you're now associated with the perpetrator, the person who had the power over them and hurt them. If you lose the power struggle, you're now associated with the person who did not protect them and had no power. Safety script. So if we are talking about working with children, for example, or we're working in an environment, I am an advocate for domestic violence survivors. So these are things that I work on with clients. So in this space, I won't allow anyone to yell at you. So I can't allow you to yell at someone else because this space is safe. Examples like that, maybe with kids, I can't allow you to throw, this is a safe space. I won't let anyone throw a chair at you, so I can't allow you to throw a chair at anyone else because this is a safe space. Reflect, honor, connect. Reflect back to them what you have heard or what they are showing you with their actions with compassion. Honor their courage for surviving and sharing. Connect them with safety and supports. So reflect back with compassion, never with judgment, what you heard. I can see that you're upset. I hear you saying that you feel disrespected by how they approached you to discuss this matter. Okay, it seems you are dealing with a lot. Something like that to reflect their emotions. Honor, thank them for sharing their story with you or highlighting something that they did to survive. Thank you for sharing your feelings with me. I know it can be difficult to talk about something that is painful. I appreciate you letting me know how hard this is or how hard this has been for you. Connect them with safety, supports, and what they would like the future to look like. This is a place to feel all of your feelings. I'm wondering if there is something I can do to help you feel safe or more comfortable right now. Reflect, honor, and get curious about the process. Reflect on what worked, what went well. Honor that there were challenges and name them. Get curious. Get curious what we can do more effectively and compassionately next time. So working towards community resilience. Communities in trauma sense isolation, hopelessness, numbness. This always happens here. The inability to feel safe or to trust others. Care Coalition response. 1 hour crime scene response, Net Care Community Crisis Response Team. 48 hours after response, care community debriefing. Ongoing awareness building, training, neighborhood committees. Community resilience. Communities that support one another in healing and acknowledging loss. Increased collective efficacy. These are some of the fantastic people that have participated in Care Coalition. Oops, let me go back to that. Sorry about that. There have been some billboards and things around. There are some videos that may be available at a later date as well. So community is care, or care is community, care is action, care is resilience, care is empowerment. So I want to thank you for participating in this. Resilience is a culture, and we all play a role. We can become a community that believes in resilience, takes action regularly, and has measures in place to promote this philosophy. If you want to know more about the Columbus Care Coalition, please visit the website or find them on social media. There's also a phone number here that you can call. Best practices for community violence and trauma. Here are some resources that you can look further into. Some references. So I just want to take a moment to thank you. I'll go back to here. Thank you for participating in this presentation and for working to make our community more trauma responsive. Have a great day and happy Comfest, everybody.